the garage with Phonetix and BrainZ.
Yes, brother.
Easy, mate. Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too. This is the BrainZ live from the BrainZ cave.
And I am Phonetix with an assortment of instruments there behind me.
They all look like a very real studio with things really happening. Yes, next new episode in the garage. Phonetix and BrainZ. What's going on? It's been a while, man. Back. This is the longest we've waited between episodes. It's slack on our part. Yeah.
Do you know, is it slack? Because I think it was unintentional on my part. I was just sitting here the other day and I thought, do you know what? I think it's been longer than 4 weeks. So we aim to do it every 4 weeks, right? And I was just like, no, we must be approaching. Is this 6 weeks now then since we did an episode?
Last one we recorded was on the 28th of August. So we've gone.
It's about 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's about 5 weeks.
About 5 weeks. Yeah, it felt like we were due one, but like I didn't realise we'd gone over. So good shout on your part to give me a call and say, oi.
Hey, I'm always the one doing the nudging, mate. I'm always the one doing the nudging. I mean, it's been a bit of there's been a lot going on. It also means that there's been a shit ton of music since the last show. My God.
Yeah, well, you saw the length of my short list that I had to whittle down to 10. And I mean, I always say it's been difficult, but like this month was a particularly difficult one to kind of whittle down because I could have gone with any number of tracks.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
I still think we're feeling the positive benefit of lockdown. I feel like there's that much of a backlog. In fact, I know there is with some labels that I've been working with. There's that much of a backlog still from lockdown where every producer came with like 50 tunes and was just signing them over to everyone. I think labels are playing catch up and I think that's why we still got so much good music. Also, you've got to bear in mind that we're approaching the winter season, aren't we? And it always goes a bit mad this time of year because all of a sudden labels go, I don't really want to be releasing anything in December and January because nobody buys records in December and January. So everyone's trying to rush to get all of those bits out before the end of the year. Which is both good and bad because it's nice to have an influx, but bad for our wallets.
I mean, I think the main thing I was upset about is that just from the backup list, there was still so many tunes in there I wanted to talk about with you because, there's just things that I know that we'd have difference of opinion on, and they're a bit contentious, but then there was just so much quality. So, you know what?
Absolutely.
As always, we need to plug the In the Garage, it recommends Spotify playlist, which is in the ukgarage.com/recommends, nicely curated by Roberto there. You put the work in and I appreciate it. But yeah, check that out and you'll always hear the bits that we miss end up on that list.
Do you know what? We pick 10 each, don't we, for that list? This is a month where we could easily pick 20 each. I mean, obviously we won't because it would just end up being too hefty, wouldn't it? But
at that point, we should just be doing a radio show, bruv. That kind of defeats the object, right?
Indeed. I take your point.
Yeah. Managed to get any petrol?
Do you know what? Sort of double-edged sword there because I'm oblivious to the news. I mean, we've said about it before, right, I stay off social media best I can. I also avoid the news. I basically stay out of the real world the very best I can the vast majority of the time.
Right.
And it just so happened, I was blissfully unaware of everything that was happening and I did the school run in the afternoon. Was it on the Friday? I'm losing track of where we are now. We're like Saturday now. So the last Friday? Whenever it was that it all kicked off, I was doing the school run. And just as chance would have it, the light on my dashboard came when it started beeping at me. You need to top up the diesel. And I was like, whilst I'm out, I picked the daughter up, and I was just like, I just got to stop at the petrol station. Got to the petrol station, and the queue was about 12 cars deep, and I was like, what's going on here? And this geezer came out, and he was like, you after fuel? And I was just like, yeah, have I picked a bad day? Anyway, he had a little bit of a laugh at me, and I was just like, well, I got to do it because I'm not like my daughter goes to school about half an hour from my house. So if I don't top up, I'm going to run out of fuel on the way home, kind of thing. So I topped up while I was there. And then obviously got home and kind of watched the news, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" That was lucky that I did that because I'm where I am. I'm on the London Road, and every petrol station between here and Camberley has just been closed all week. You get yeah. No, I do a whole lot of driving these days,
all the retards. Thank you, all the retards that have been topping up their quarter of a tank that they rush to the station. My petrol light's been on for 2 weeks. I've had nothing. And I'm in Essex, right? So that's been one of the worst hit because we've got the most idiots. The petrol light came on 2 weeks ago, and I went to the petrol station, BP, and they had nothing but premium because they were just starting to feel for some reason Essex has started to have the delivery problems first, and so I'm like, well, I ain't paying $1.55 or whatever the fuck it was per litre. So I'm like, sorry, I ain't filling up. I'll wait until it sorts itself out. And the next day, all this shit started, and so I've had no petrol for 2 weeks.
Oh shit. Well, at least are you in a position where you're near a tube station or something? Because can you get about somewhat quite well without a car?
Well, I'm just work from home, bruv. I just don't leave. Just me and the dog, and that's it. And the missus goes out.
Just stay there as much as you can. That's it. That's a smart move.
I can order everyone.
That's a smart move.
Order everyone about over Microsoft Teams. That's all we need to do, right? That's what 2021's all about. Should we jump into it? Because we shouldn't. Really, it's not really a petrol podcast. Let's get cracking.
Everyone's probably sick of hearing about petrol already.
Yeah, that's it. We'll just complete. This will be so dated. Someone will revisit this in 2 years' time and be like, "Petrol? Why the fuck are they going on about petrol?"
Do you remember?
We had a petrol thing, crisis. The army's coming out tomorrow. We're recording on Monday. Recording this on Saturday. To deliver petrol for us, and we voted Brexit and sent all the foreigners home, and then there's no truck drivers, and we wonder why. I'm not saying which way I voted, but I'm not happy about this situation. Anyway, shall we go for your first tune?
Let's get into our
brand new. Get out of the politics and into
the
UKG, bro. What you got for us?
I must apologise to Impact and Marvel, because actually, I think the last episode we recorded was the day that this track that I've picked came out, but I hadn't realised it was out. Otherwise, I would have probably plugged it back then because it's a banger. We'll talk about it obviously after we listen to it, but this is Impact featuring. Help if I announce it properly, wouldn't it? Impact featuring Soozy Q with a track called Hold Me Tight. It's available now on vinyl exclusively via MI Wax.
Hold me tight.
Definitely got that Impact feel about it, and it's kind of vintage as well in terms of its structure, but also just kind of the way that he's put the sounds together and mixed it down. It's not necessarily kind of the 2020s kind of vibe.
2021, mate. Where are you? You're a year behind.
2020s. We're in the 2020s, right? It's the whole.
I'll get what you're saying. No, I mean, let's just talk about Impact for a second, because I mean, obviously, people who know me are going to know that Impact's my boy. That's not the reason that I picked this track. There's never any favoritism. When it comes to our track selection, I always pick the tracks that I think are best. Right? So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Impact, I think generally, when you hear the name Impact, a lot of people probably think radio presenter, right? Because he's got a long-standing history. He's got a show on Flex. He runs a very tight ship. He's got a good show over there. Regularly brings on guests. And I think as a result of that, I think his production sometimes gets overlooked. Do you know what I mean? I think people think DJ Impact, you see him on a lot of flyers. Actually, he's quite an accomplished producer when you look at his body of work, his back catalogue. And I think one of the things that I could really easily say about him is that he's very good at kind of honing in on sound and kind of emulating it. And I think obviously it's a very clever track here, because he's obviously picked up on the fact that this kind of 4/4 retro vibe is kind of popping off with the vinyl thing, right? There's certain things that sell on vinyl, and this kind of vibe is one of those things. And obviously him and Marvel have been talking about putting out a vinyl release for a while, so it's the ideal thing to put onto a vinyl. But like you quite correctly said there, in terms of the way it's constructed, the sound selection, the mix down, and the arrangement, more importantly, it's very, authentically kind of mid to late 90s. Do you know what I mean? It really, like, you could, if you played me that track and you didn't tell me that was Impact and you told me it was one of those artists from back then, I probably wouldn't even question it. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I can kind of hear that. The only giveaway tell, obviously, that is Impact is you can hear those little trademark kind of train sounds like faintly in the background if you listen closely. But like if you didn't realise that, then you could quite easily miss it. And I think, you know, like it's a trend with Impact being able to really authentically mimic styles convincingly. He did it for me when he did his speed garage mix of The Rage for my 27-month remix album. It was another one, like when he played it to me, I was like, fucking hell, like if you'd played it to me and told me that was made in the late 90s, I totally would have believed it. And I think, you know, he's nailed it with that track. It's a strong release on the whole. Like, I easily could have picked any four of the tracks on that vinyl. That's my pick of the bunch. I know a lot of people are obviously quite hyped over one of Marvel's bits, but props to them, man. I think it's always a good look whenever anyone puts out a vinyl, right? It always kind of takes us back to yesteryear, and there's always kind of that risk element with it as well. I think it kind of takes balls, unless you're like one of those established cult labels like Shall Not Fade, or you know, you've got like other people doing the 4/4 thing who are obviously shifting a lot of vinyl. It takes balls to do it, but I like how they've delivered it. I like what they've done, and yeah, I just wanted to shout that tune, big up Impact and Marvel, and kind of push a few people in their direction.
It's definitely got a tough jammy vibe to it for sure. Just even the way the kind of toppy like beep, 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 beep sounds, that's all very tough jammy to me. Yeah, I originally, when I saw this vinyl, I thought this was an old tune that he was re-releasing, but obviously it's brand spankers.
Yeah, it's a new one.
Yeah, and it's just whenever I see vinyl releases, it always hurts my heart, because it's like, you know, I'm now just looking at a shit ton of vinyl that I've got, and I've got no interest in buying it anymore.
Yeah,
just because it's music, and it's sad in a way that music has become so disposable. But it's like, for me to buy a vinyl only release, it means I'd have to get my Technics out. I didn't have to rip the vinyl. I'd have a subpar quality copy of the tune. But then I suppose when they do digital and vinyl together, that makes sense. And if you're kind of an avid kind of fan of the music, you want to have the thing to say, I have this to support it. And I've met plenty of people that's like that, but you know, I think in the position that I am personally, I don't want to buy like physical anymore. I only want to buy digital.
I get where you're coming from. I think the difficulty for the artist or label, if it's a label that's doing it, the difficulty is obviously striking that balance, because if you do a vinyl and you do the digital release at the same time, and I'm just trying to think of artists like Smasher does it, right? The fact that you're doing digitally will put a sort of a portion of that demographic that wants the vinyl off the idea of buying it, because there are the people that will buy it purely because they want that kind of exclusivity and that kind of that potential for that vinyl to be worth something. It's like a collector's item, right? And as soon as you kind of put it out there digitally, you almost remove that from it. So there's a real fine kind of balancing act to be had there. I know we've talked about it at length in the past, and I agree with you, like, from a purely subjective point of view, like, I mean, I don't even have a vinyl turntable at the moment. I downsized my studio, I moved flat, and I sold a lot of stuff, and one of the first things I got rid of was all my vinyl, because it was taking up so much space. So I ripped it all. I still got the rips, obviously, but like I sold all my vinyl on that. And like, yeah, I agree. The idea of buying vinyl now, like, I would seldom do it. In fact, I got a vinyl through for the first time this week in God knows how long, and the only reason I've got it is because
Blacklisted EP.
It's me. Big up Strictly House and Garage for sending me my copy. But yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. And how do you play it as an artist? Do you put out, like, if you want to sell a view? Because I get it. We talked about it before, and I kind of questioned it, and you quite rightly sort of said profit margins, and like, if you can make the money back from the vinyl, then you're going to do that, aren't you? Because you can mark up a vinyl 3-4 quid, till make 3-4 quid profit per unit. Say if you're kind of pushing it and selling it at a sort of tidy price, you're never going to make anywhere near that sort of money selling MP3s. But equally, I guess it depends what you're looking to get from a release. Do you want to build your rep? Do you want to increase your exposure? Or are you purely looking at it as, right, can we make a few quid from this? Because yeah, it's that balancing act, and do you know what I mean? Like, you could if you put that tune out as an MP3, it'd probably make like a tenner. Like, by the time the distributor's taken their cut, by the time Beatport's taken their cut, do you know what I mean? It's whereas you could sell several vinyl and you've immediately made more money than that. So I can see the appeal in it in monetary terms. I mean, for me personally as an artist, we've kind of strayed from talking about a track here. We're kind of going into the politics of vinyl versus digital, aren't we? I mean, for me, like I said it before in a previous episode, like I'm always kind of minded to think, right, I make music because I want as many people as possible to hear it. And that's why I'm always kind of trying to market and find new ways to get myself out there and build more of a presence, purely because I want as big an audience as possible, because as an artist, knowing that there are people listening to me is what drives me along, even if I'm not necessarily making so much money. That's not a criticism of anyone who's trying the vinyl thing, and big up Impact and Marvel for kind of taking that leap and doing it. It's just it's that kind of contrasting, conflicting point of view, isn't it? It's that perspective that kind of falls in line with what you were saying as the consumer, going, I don't know if I can really be asked for vinyl, but...
No, but the market's there, bruv. The market's there. That's what I'm saying. My cynical hat comes on, and it's like, okay, you're hitting the vinyl market. Vinyl sales are probably, I think they're above CDs now at the moment, and they're continuing to shoot up. Like it is, there's been a revival. Like it's a renaissance of vinyl at the moment, and I think that's great.
Walk in your local HMV. There's my local HMV anyway. The vinyl section is as big, if not bigger, than the CD section. So I think that kind of falls in line with what you were just saying there.
Yeah, because people want to have the thing, and vinyl just. It's more of a better souvenir almost, but then But I suppose where my cynicism kicks in is where you get labels like Dr. Banana, and I've heard good and bad things about the way they deal with their artists. But they're putting out tunes that they will 100% be exclusive on their vinyls only with limited run, which means you've got to pay for it, you get it, and then it's gone forever. And that's fine, but it means that. Instantly, I say in my head, well, I'm not interested because I can never touch that because I'm not going to buy the vinyl. And if I can't get it digitally, I don't care about it. It's, maybe it's just my own kind of selfish ways, but I hope that eventually they release this digitally so I can get a copy of it. So big up Impact. And if you want to send it to my email, my address, bruv.
It's a wicked track, though. It's a wicked track. Big up Impact. And I feel he's like like one of those, and I'm legitimately not saying this because he's one of my boys. Part of the reason like you become friends with someone is because you're like-minded, right? So I think one of the reasons that he's my boy is because we're on the same wavelength, and certainly like when it comes to music, definitely so. But I genuinely, that aside, do think he's like one of the unsung heroes of garage, because I think he's been around forever, much like us. We're all dinosaurs. But he's been doing his bit, and he's been really grafting and kind of pushing the sound for God knows how long. Do you know what I mean? Before I met him even. And I think he really deserves more praise. I was talking, I can't remember who I was talking with recently about like radio DJs and the type of DJ that you want repping garage, like on a grand scale. And I feel like Impact is the ideal guy that, like, if I was at one of these big stations, if I was working for Bauer Media Group or something, I'd be looking at someone like him going, right, well, he knows his shit. He's been around a long while. He's an artist as well. He knows the ins and outs. He knows everyone. He works hard every week to get different guests on his show and showcase everything that's going on. That's the type of person you want. And he's charismatic with it on his show. Do you know what I mean? I listen to other radio shows, and I wouldn't necessarily say the same things about the presenters. And that's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not including you here because your shows crease me. I love your presenting, man.
I'm a top wanker, mate. No.
No, your shows, you kill me. You kill me with your little comments you make and stuff. I never fail to laugh. I think I've always got time for good music and good humour. Good combination.
I'll tell you what, I've got a lot of time for Impact on his radio show because he gets those guests in. And I think my ego is so big that I don't want to take away my time from my own mixing and all the new tunes that I found, like I source tunes. I wish I had the patience and the space in my brain to allow other people in constantly. It also takes a lot of coordination
as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the coordination, mate.
As I will say, obviously, I've been on Impact show a number of times, and like fair play to him because he's really like you never turn up there, and you never turn up there without a plan. He's always got a plan for how the show's going to go, what's going to be being discussed at X, Y, and Z times, and which tunes are getting played, and like that's an important scheduling, isn't it? That's an important part of doing something seamlessly. I think that's why one of the reasons why his show is so good, because he takes the time and the effort to do that. Unlike you, lazy git.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just all about me. So if you want a copy of my wax, it's MI, the letter I, wax. You can get that from Marvelous Records and the My Wax Records Bandcamps. Big up Impact, big up Marvel. Let's move on. We've been talking about this one for ages. I say talking about this one, I'm obviously just bitching about the fact that I can't get songs that are on vinyl for myself. That's all that was. I'm going to move on to this next one. I text this one to you, mainly because of the trumpet, because there's always got to be a trumpet. It's got to be right quick. What's that, Rob? I've heard a trumpet in a garage song. Let's go. I have been humming this song. This song's been in my head like all week, and I want to share it with you guys. Who is it? It's Wiguez? Is that how you say it? Is it? I don't know how you say it.
I think it's Wiguez. He's Spanish, right? So probably Wiguez, I'm guessing.
Lo siento, no comprende. ¿Dónde está la discoteca? So it's Wiguez and Alltair and P-One. And this tune is on Phonetix Records and it is entitled What She Wants.
Baby, wants for me. Alright, okay, then let's do. Yeah, baby, want for me. Okay, alright, like last time. Oh yeah, baby, want for me. Yeah, my baby, want for me.
So I wish I knew more about this collective of people, but this is 2021, mate. Like, the singing style is obviously modern. You got the jazz step stuff going on, which I hope they've grabbed from you, but you never know. And I say it's garage and it's just modern, and that trumpet line, mate, is just amazing.
Do you know how tempted I was to have my trumpet beside me, and then as that kicked, I was just going to whip it out.
You should have, mate. You should have. You ruined it.
I didn't want to detract from the beauty of the tune. I felt like it would have been an unnecessary distraction.
Fantastic, mate. This is I just love that it is. This era right now. This is how you kind of fuse musical styles across all genres and put it into garage in the kind of vibe that I want to hear. Phenomenal work, and I wish I'd looked up on who these guys are a bit more, but I want the music to speak for itself. This is one of them ones where I'm scrolling through all releases and I hear this and I'm like, fucking wicked.
Agree entirely with everything you've said there. I think you hit the nail on the head for me when you used the phrase, the word modern, because that was the first thing I thought when I was listening to it, aside from how beautiful it is, was just like how topical. There are lots of topical elements in it that go together and then get fused with those kind of traditional garage stylings in a really soulful and jazzy way, and it's just really slickly done from start to finish. You know, the first thing I thought, and I don't mean this as a diss to them, the first thing that I thought when I heard those first couple of chords, if you take it back and play those first couple of chords, actually, can you do that? Can you just play those first couple of chords for me?
Right, okay.
Just the chords and then stop it.
Right, hang on.
Right, pause it there. If you played me just that bit and said, that's the new Higo track, I would be like, yeah, it sounds very Higo-esque, just in the chord progressions. Do you know what I mean? But then obviously it kind of goes off down a slightly different route. And like you say, there's so many elements going on there. And yeah, I mean, I can't really elaborate much more on what you said, because I feel like you summarised it perfectly. I love it. It went straight on my jazz step playlist. I text you thanking you for the heads up. And I've been listening to it all week myself. It's great. So props to those guys. And I hope we can hear more from that little collective.
Yeah. Wiguez.
If they listen, can you like? I'm always. In fact, I saw another artist this week that had like 3 V's in a row in his name. Obviously, that was a bit of a better example of one that I hadn't a clue how to say it. If Wiguez, like what? Can they send us a message and tell us how to pronounce their name right? I always feel really disrespectful when we're reading out an artist's name and we don't know how to say it. I want to get it right. Is it Alltair? I think it's Alltair. I don't know. We need to clarify this.
I've got small writing on my computer screen here. I'm an old man. I'm 40 next year, bruv. I'm a granddad. I'm literally a granddad. So I'm already starting to struggle to see properly. So I just have to like squint and take a best guess. Wicked things. Thank you, Wiguez, for creating whatever that is, and everyone else that's featured on that. And P-One, Wiguez and P-One, because I'm guessing they produced it. And then the singer was, what did we say? Alltair, or whatever his name is. Alltair.
Is it Alltair?
I can't see it.
I did look them up. I went on Spotify and looked them up, and obviously you've got the little biography, and some people, obviously their biographies are more comprehensive than others. And one of them had support from the name of I even read it and I thought I must remember that so that when we're discussing I can give him props, and now I've forgotten it. They had some support from some big people over in the States, so they're obviously kind of doing the thing and making moves.
They must be American. Are they American then? Are they American?
No, I think they were Spanish. I think Wiguez, I'm pretty sure Wiguez and P-One, don't quote me on this, and sorry if I'm wrong, lads, but I'm pretty sure I saw that they were Spanish on there. I don't know about the other guy. Yeah, double check that in case I'm talking shit.
Well,
I'm pretty sure that's what I saw earlier.
Let's just leave it hanging so we can have people email in and just be like, no, what is this prick talking about?
Answers on the back of a postcard to feedback@theukgarage.com.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe he's Mexican. You never know. Who knows? He could be.
It's kind of got like Latino. I thought certain elements, and there's like a breakdown in there. It almost sounds kind of like you could strip the garage beat off it, stick a trap beat over it, and it'd be quite a topical kind of Latino trap beat, wouldn't it? It would work really well.
Yeah, please do not ever do that. Do not ruin that song to a Latino trap. Great stuff. Let's move on to your next pick, bruv. What you got?
My next pick is one that I'm pretty sure you played it. I think you played it on your show the other week.
I did, yeah.
You did, didn't you? And I fell in love. I got a massive shout out to my man Martin Depp. We're going to talk about him afterwards. This is Depsky with a track called Stonebridge Park. This is the 3am mix. I don't even know that there's another mix. As far as I know, this is the only mix, but it's the 3am mix in any event. It's available now on Friday Rush Records. Great things clearly happening at 3 a.m. Yeah, indeed. I think it says a lot about how laid back and chilled that track is that we were both pouring ourselves alcoholic beverages while listening to it. Like, could that have been timed better as you over there pouring out your whiskey? No, what a track, man. And completely caught me off guard because this is not like anything I've heard go out on Friday Rush Records to this point. When I see Friday Rush, I expect a certain kind of two-step, always banging, always high caliber, but I've not heard anything like this. So when I clicked on it, it blew me away, and I straight away got on the emails to Martin. And I was like, "Fucking hell, mate! Like you've caught me off guard there." And I mean, Martin Depp, what a ledge, true gent, real pro. How many fucking labels is he running? I don't know. The guy, like, people say Smash is the busiest man in garage, right? I don't know if he is. I think Martin Depp's up there because the guy is running so many different little chains of labels there, each with their different sound, and to come with something like that as well, lovely. I don't know. I did email him, and I said, I don't know whether I'm off the mark suggesting that Depsky is mine because he's Martin Depp. It would make sense to me that it's Depsky. I said, is that you? Is that an alias? Is that Hush Hush? I don't want to blow your cover if that is a quiet alias. He didn't get back to me yet. I only emailed him last night. I was hoping to kind of get clarification before we went on air, so apologies if I've just blown the lid on the Hush Hush alias, but if that is him making that, whoever did make that tune, it's fucking sublime and it's really slickly done. I think just a real nice compliment to the roster and the back catalogue that Friday Rush has got. Because obviously there's been a few CJ Rain bits recently, right? That are kind of a bit more higher paced, more up tempo than that one. This is just like, I don't know. That I hear that. That's the type of thing I want to chill to on my sofa, or the night after, the day after I've been for a night out, or if I'm in the car. It's just real chilled, laid back vibes. You know what I mean? Another one straight on my jazz step playlist. It's right up my street. Love the chords, love the keys, love the brass. It's kind of got a BWK kind of thing going on with that brass. You know what I mean? When I say that, it's kind of that distant sax that just kind of is there and kind of. It's in the forefront, but it's in the background. It's laced in reverb. It just
that
just
sax,
sits right. It just makes me smile.
The way that he done that sax reminded me instantly of Stone Cold.
Yeah, I can see that.
Groove Chronicles. That. Yeah, that was the way it's kind of the sound of it and how it was echoing and the reverb and all that. That was Stone Cold is where the link that I made. Obviously, it's not the same like notes that he's playing or chords or whatever, but.
I could see if you said to me, yeah, that's directly influenced by Groove Chronicles, I could see a direct link there. It's almost like he's kind of done a sort of a slightly more modern take on what they were doing back then, right? I think that's probably fair to say, but he's done it. It's beautiful. So I feel like you can tell when I'm really blown away by a tune because like I know what I'm trying to say, but my brain doesn't catch up with my mouth, and I end up going just kind of. It's not the alcohol, I swear. It's not the drinks. It's not the drinks. I'm just really blew me away, and like I've listened to that so much since it came out. I've just been like, it's just one of those ones I've had on loop, and I'm just like, every time I listen to it, I'm like, certain tracks you just can listen to them repeatedly, and you don't tire of them. Just one of those ones. I love it.
Mate, Friday Rush has put out some wicked tunes. Loads of tunes by Two Sleep. And this, you said CJ Rain goes out on it, and they've been a bit sneaky. They've put a couple of older like CJ Rains out and then rehashed them. Which, I was like, oh, new CJ Rain. And I'm like, oh no, hang on. That tune's actually 10 years old.
I've got no issue with that because the chances are that most people missed it from 10 years ago. I can understand the logic. Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
I'm planning to do it with some Riddler stuff soon, so don't hate too much on that because I feel like
no hate.
It's like you get a tune that's of CJ. All of CJ stuff has been high caliber as well. It needs to be reissued so that a new generation can enjoy it.
Yeah, that tune. It was the tune.
Continue now.
No. It's like the tune that I remember specifically was "Rockin' and Groovin'," and I know that I had that in like 2010 or something, and I see it come out on Friday Rush, and it's like, oh, that's nice. Like more people are going to hear that tune. It's kind of what I'll think. But then at the same time, it's like, well, I don't want to touch that because it's 10 years old and I'm playing new music.
That's you being a snob, though.
It's not snob. It's not pure snob. It's a little bit snob, but it's not pure snob because there's so much fucking music. My radio show this week, do you know how tough it was to pick the fucking set of my last radio set? Because there was so much music. And exactly the same, the testament of narrowing down just like 3 tunes each to talk about on this show. Ridiculously difficult. To go back to Stonebridge Park 3 a.m, beautiful. you're talking about, you know, it's the day after you go out, you might want to listen to this. That's the definition of Sunday flavors, mate. You know, that's where that phrase come from. Sunday morning pirate station, you're putting in chilled kind of garage vibes, and this would have kind of this is the modern version of that, right?
For sure.
Great work. Big up. Is it Depsky or Depsky? Who knows? I don't know.
I've just assumed it's Depsky, but
it's got to be Depsky. I mean, it's got to be Depsky. That's
whoever Depsky is, it's a wicked one. And can we get some clarification as well, Martin? When you hear this,
whoever he is, Martin,
can you just let us know if there's another mix? Are we going to hear like a 10 p.m. mix, or like is there a more slam? I want to know.
I thought it was just called Stonebridge Park 3 a.m. and you've said it's Stonebridge Park the 3 a.m. mix.
Do you know what? Let me check it on Spotify. I'm pretty sure it's labelled the 3 a.m. mix, because that was my first thought was, is there another mix? I want to know. Like if there's another version of that track, I want to hear it. Right? Don't go anywhere. I'm checking in real time.
All right, we'll hold this space. But yeah, great work. Big up Depsky and big up Friday Rush Records. Just for, I mean, they came out of nowhere really. Like I every time a tune came out from them, I was like, oh my God, what's this label? Like they just dropped randomly, and every release is pretty much a banger. Like I've got to big them up.
I'm just going to jump in and interrupt you because you're right. I'm chatting shit. It is actually labelled Stonebridge Park 3 a.m. original mix. So I beg your pardon on that one. In terms of where they came from, I mean, obviously, like we were saying before, like about Martin being so busy. I think probably, I mean, if you look at like Pogo House, right? Pogo House, I think it's probably fair to say is his kind of main thing, right? And he's like a staple within the garage house movement, like a real fundamental part of that scene. Like they're on like 280 odd releases in, like that's fucking insane. I know they've been going for like several years now.
Pogo
like,
House are?
Yeah,
Holy
they're
fuck.
like fucking a shitload of releases. Like and like when you go back through the back catalogue, it's like the consistency, the quality control is strong. It's not like they're putting out hundreds of shit records; they're putting out strong records. So to be in a position where actually they've got these sort of sister labels that are delivering slightly different sounds, he's obviously got good channels set up off the back of that to do it. And I feel like Friday Rush, as well as what's the other one? The Bubble is it Bubble and Twist? Bubble and Twist has done some bangers as well. I feel like those labels and the releases on them probably don't get the credit they deserve. I feel like we could probably chat about any one of those each month, and they're up there among the strong releases that we're looking at, you know. So props and keep them coming, please.
Large up to that camp. Let's move on to the next one. This is a label that's obviously very close to you and I. You've had releases on here, you know, and he's recently started sending me promos again. So thank you for restarting that. I appreciate it. This one was in the shops, and I had to grab it as a you know, a citizen of the garage scene. I had to purchase this one. Guy from Australia who's been out on various labels. Been out on Downplay, and a few others. A guy called Angus Green, and let's play the tune and talk about it. This is out now on Strictly Flavour Records by Angus Green, and it is entitled Untroubled. I mean, look, I absolutely love that one, and I would love to play it all the way to the end and just vibe to it. But you know, it's very, very modern. Now, I've got a feeling that the reason he's called this Untroubled is because he sampled another record called Untroubled by a guy called 123 MRK, who's a French guy. The reason I would guess that is because I love 123 MRK. And I've listened to the record Untroubled many, many times, and those sounds and that chord progression, I think, are from that record. I need to double check this with Angus. You know what? And if he's sampled that as a homage and put that as the title of this record, amazing. If he didn't do that, this tune is still phenomenal without that. But love it, absolutely love it, man. Angus, great work. Strictly Flavour, great job signing it, man. Because what a tune.
Yeah. I'm a huge Angus Green fan. I probably should touch base with him and let him know that. I feel like it's important if you're feeling someone's music to let them know, right? But yeah, if he's watching, big up Angus. I actually, the first time I heard this release, first thing I did was pick up my phone and text Ian at Strictly Flavour. And he'll vouch for this. I text him, I fucking love Angus Green, and then realised how weird it sounded and was just like, just listen to the new release. But no, big up, because yeah, I mean, he's been churning them out for a while now, and everything I hear is just so it's just very creative. I feel like he's not sitting in a box or trying to emulate anyone. He's just doing his own thing, and he kind of mixes it up a bit. But it just always sounds really slick. I think in terms of this release, as I say, I was really pleased that you had kind of highlighted this as one of the ones you wanted to discuss. Wasn't my favourite of the two. I actually preferred Vortex myself. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I had that on my shortlist. They're both kind of equally beautifully, slightly wonky, if that. Do you know what I mean by wonky? I don't mean that as an insult. Yeah. Just kind of out there in the way they're constructed. And I love that on Vortex it's kind of got that kind of sort of staggered. The snare is ever so slightly late. Do you know what I mean? And it just kind of gives it that little kind of.
But see, the snare being slightly late, that is a signature of 123 MRK, who I was talking about. Like, this is why I'm saying I feel like he's got to be influenced by this guy. I almost want to play that tune.
We're going to need some feedback from Angus as soon as he hears this. I want to know now.
Well, you know what? I think I'm going to have to play 123 MRK Untroubled. It's the only way we're going to settle this. Have a listen to this and tell me what you think. Hear the sound? The plonky plonky, similar. Mate, that tune is forever one of my favourites. Like, and
my single favourite thing. Sorry to jump. My single favourite thing about doing this podcast with you is watching how excited you get about these tunes. And I know the Final Cut Collective always listen back to these podcasts, and they always said this. Like, I always get a text from them just like, "Oh, I love BrainZ's reaction to this." Like, it's become an ongoing conversation topic. Your bopping and your dance moves, man. A good example, right there.
You got to feel it. I got to feel it in here, mate. But look. Am I crazy? I want to know. Am I crazy? Can you see where I'm coming from?
I can kind of see the link. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the only person who can clarify for us exactly the reason for the title and how influenced it was is Angus, isn't it?
The sounds are too similar, mate, and the chord progressions are there.
I can see it. I can see what you're saying. But then equally, like, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's like chicken and egg situation when it comes to composing music, because you're like everybody's. There's been a lot of things in the press recently, right, about like legal cases against artists in America being accused of ripping other people off, and I genuinely do think, as an artist, you do inadvertently hear things that you don't even realise have inspired you, And like I remember back in the day, AC making like this tech house track when he was first doing his tech house thing and kind of sending it to me. And I was making a tech house track around the same time. And then like when I finished my track, I listened back and I was like, holy shit, it just sounds like I've mugged AC off. And it was obviously because what he did was that catchy that it got into my head and I hadn't even realised it until I'd kind of fit. And I ended up kind of apologising him going, shit, mate, sorry, I've just completely rinsed you. So I think it does happen. Whether it has happened unintentionally there, whether Angus is deliberately
I don't think it's
homage,
unintentional.
I don't know.
I think it's a homage, mate. And I completely respect it. Why would you call it exactly the same name? Like, I hope it is because it means he's got great taste. Because I love that fucking track so much. When I used to make music under Orpheus LDN with Paul Muad'Dib, we used to cream our knickers over 123 MRK. Just like because he's so like different and twisted. If you haven't checked him out, he's a French guy, and I highly recommend it. I'm worried about time and stuff, and how much
gassing, man. Let's jump into the next one.
I also wonder how much my bladder's going to hold up. I don't know how long it's going to keep going with all of this
whiskey
booze.
you're drinking,
exactly.
mate.
Yeah. Go introduce the next one, mate. Go for it.
I'm really pleased we can discuss something by my man Para because he's another one who's like an unsung hero of garage, been around fucking forever. Has been responsible for some real bangers. He's got a new release out on New Volve Recordings, no less. It's called Havana, and this is it playing right now.
Love it. Lively vibes, bro.
What a blend of vibes. What a blend. Like, I don't even know. I was thinking about this. You know, like you've kind of got all your different subgenres of garage that fall under the umbrella. And you can normally kind of pinpoint whether something would be classed as like on the more bassy side, whether something's bass house, bass line, two-step. I can't really categorize that. And I like that. It's good. It's kind of emergence of different little styles. And it kind of takes me back to thinking back to like 2010, 2011, when Para was making quite a lot of this kind of rolling 4/4 bass heavy stuff. It's like a slightly more evolved, more mature, better produced version of what he was doing then. And I think for me personally, subjectively, like not a lot of people know, but obviously I like jazz. Everyone knows that, right? But like my favorite kind of little niche sub part of jazz is like the Latin side. I really like a lot of the salsa and the rumba and like particularly the Cuban stuff. And obviously that's where the elements of this come from. And he's kind of found a way to do it and kind of chop up that sample, but maintain the warmth of the original sound and kind of bring it across into what is quite a sort of I don't want to say clinical or sterile, but it's not such a warm kind of track. It's kind of a dirty, raw track. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like many people could do that in the way that Para does it and kind of maintain that level of energy in there. It's a real kind of, it's like almost a head fuck of a mix of different sounds, but done so well enough. And I said this to you before we went on here, didn't I? That I've got a 16-month-old son who was sat in the back of the car and I was blasting this out the other day, and that track finished, and as it finished, it got an ovation from my son who started clapping it. He enjoyed it that much. So I think if you can please a 16-month-old with your music, you're into good things, right? And big up New Volve for picking up on it and put it out there, because I feel like it's a bit of a standout from their current catalogue of tracks. Like that track is something a little bit different. So it's always nice to see labels kind of taking on something that stands out from the rest of what they've put out. Am I making sense?
Yeah, completely. I mean, look, no, it's just like I'm trying to work out where I can go from there. It's like, you know, it's Para. He's, New Volve has been supporting new artists, which I love. Para's obviously 100% a veteran, whether you know that or not. DEA Project tunes I was listening to when I was in school. Para's been at this for longer than many people. And
there's also guys produce stuff that people don't even realise were him as well. Do you know what I mean? There's some sort of bigger names that you wouldn't ever know were Para, but he's responsible, kind of thing.
Yeah, let's not blow him or them up. But yeah, the long and the short of it is he's a very, very talented man. But it shows what I love is that he's on New Volve because he is current. He's not just someone that was making garage 20 years ago and he's still now doing the same shit from then. Like over the eras, he's had tunes that define him. You got to call out Tell Me when he done that before he put Robbie Craig on it. Like the original bootleg mix was absolutely stunning, and when I heard that, I had shivers down my spine.
I love the version with Robbie Craig just as much. Do you know what? I'm going to say something here, and we were talking about Lost Gems at the start of the show, and we were talking about another one, and there's two tracks that stand out to me as my favourite garage tracks of all time, and the Para and Robbie Craig version of Tell Me is one of them. Like that's how much I love that track. It's one of my favourite garage tracks of all time. I think it's that sick. It's just really slick. I mean, like you've obviously pinpointed the version with the Stevie Wonder samples in it. I'm a massive Robbie Craig fan, and I love his vocal performance on that track, so I give him props for that as well. Look, I could see you could pick either version.
I respect that he brought Robbie Craig onto that track, right? And then Robbie Craig even evolved it a bit, and he put like, "If you really love me, won't you tell me?" That was obviously completely brand spanking new. It fit perfectly. But when they tried to replicate the original sample that he used from Stevie Wonder, he couldn't. Para, mate, I love you, but you can't be as strong as Stevie, because Stevie's fucking Stevie. So you can only ever be a bad copy of Stevie, which meant that what you did on that tune was only ever going to be a bad copy of what the original was, and it was unfortunate.
It was in a difficult spot with, like, if you've heard the original version before you hear the re-vocal, like, it's always going to be difficult to kind of mimic. Like, I had a similar problem, albeit to a much lesser, sort of lower down the scale, because it's nowhere near as good, but I had a similar problem with the cover of What You Won't Do for Love that I put out on Jazz Tip FM, because obviously I'd done a remix of the Bobby Caldwell version as a bootleg previously, and I feel like if you marry the two up, like, as great as Harsh's vocal performance is on the re-vocal, like, there's just something about, like, the old vintage, like sampling an old vintage record and doing something with it that you can't quite mimic. I don't think it's necessarily, like you saying what you said, I don't think it's necessary to take anything away from Robbie Craig.
No, not at all.
If anyone could come close to Stevie, it's Robbie, but you're never going to quite mimic that old kind of Motown flavour, or you're never going to quite
it's
be
just
able
not
to
possible.
do that. So I get what you're saying.
It's not possible.
I get what you're saying. I still maintain myself, and maybe it's purely because I'm such an audiophile and I'm a studio engineer and I'm a nerd, that I prefer the version with Robbie Craig on it, and maybe that's just because it's crisply, cleanly recorded afresh and all layered up nicely. Do you know what I mean? But I can see both sides of the coin with that one. We're digressing again, mate. We're gassing.
No, we're not.
We're supposed to be talking about Havana, and we've ended up talking about something else.
You know what, Rob? We're going to have to take a break because I need a piss. I'm dying for a piss. This is like, so all of this stuff will cut out.
This is unprecedented. Unprecedented. Welcome back, BrainZ, after your piss.
Oh, right. Just make it like I was the only one that went. Well, we're back. So big up Para. I'm going to move on to the next pick. So I'm kind of branching over back. It's not going back to Future Garage, but this has kind of got Future Garagey vibes. This next one that I've got, it's a real. I don't know. I was doing my usual listening to every single thing ever that was released in the kind of garage genre, and this one came up, and it had a sound that hit my ears, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I like my kind of oddball ones. This is by a gang called Oxossi, spelt very strangely, and this tune is called Empty Kisses. this is one of them ones where we've talked about L2S recordings before again, and this is one where I could see L2S putting something like this out way like back in the Future Garage glory days, but it's still got like a kind of modern spin to it. I just enjoyed it. It's literally a set of sounds that appealed to my soul, and I enjoyed it. Big up Oxossi for this one.
It's fucking wicked, man. Like the intro, and like especially with the thunder in the background, it's all really ominous, and like I would use the word epic to describe it, because you could have that on a film soundtrack, right? And then it kicks in, and like the drums hit surprisingly hard. I want to hear that on a club system, because I reckon that would sound fucking banging. But it's got that kind of chord progression. I can't quite place it. It reminds me of something that I've heard at some point in the past. I can't quite pinpoint it, and that's not to say they've ripped anyone off. Just like it's got kind of some kind of familiarity about it. But yeah, it's a wicked vibe. It's wicked. It's really different to everything else. Obviously, we've showcased tonight. Just different in general to a lot of what I'm hearing at the minute, but doesn't sound out of place at the same time. It's kind of, as you said, kind of still manages to be kind of topical. I could imagine any number of DJs picking that up and rolling with that, and yeah, it's a nice one to kind of round off with. It's a wild card without being too wild, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we've not got like the super duper kind of savage brain aneurysm bass that I do if I want to get a real crazy wild card. But yeah, it's definitely one that I don't think will be picked up by many people, just because it's not an artist that I've heard of before. It could be a collective. I don't know who Oxossi are, but big up.
Do we not know anything about them? Shall I Google them while we're?
You can do some casual googling. It's always
Is it Oxossi?
So it's Oxossi. Oxossi.
Oh, Oxossi.
Oxossi. So it's not cis. It's Oxossi. You know what? I don't know what they've come up with. It's probably like some sort of Greek word that we've never heard of, or God knows what. But yeah, there's a whole EP that they've done, and this was the lead track on it. And I really, really enjoyed it. I've just big up to them for putting this out. And yeah, I get what you're saying. The chord progression kind of feels familiar. Maybe that's why I enjoyed it. I don't know. But just the set of sounds, and it was a little bit different, and it hit nicely. And I could have picked of the remaining kind of 10 that we've got that I'm sure we'll go through in a second. I could have had a few tunes that kind of fell into that category of a little bit different and not quite standard garage. But this was the one that I was adamant I wanted to talk about today.
That was the standout. I can tell you now, looking at his Spotify, that is a guy from LA who also, like me, likes jazz, apparently. So
happy days.
Good man. Obviously listens to a lot of hip hop. He's kind of got a bit of a vague... he first started producing electronic music after graduating college, started creating hip-hop beats inspired by his long-time love of the genre. His extensive exposure to a diverse range of music has allowed him to successfully craft his highly eclectic ambient and bass-heavy style, one that blends his deeply rooted musical upbringing with his own creative individuality. That's probably quite a good summary of what we just heard as well.
Well, thank you very much for creating what I consider to be a modern garage rhythm. Safe.
It is great. Good choice, mate. Good choice.
Let's.
Are we going to run through our because we always forget to run through our ones that didn't quite make it, don't we?
We're an hour in and we've got to go for it. One for one. Let's go.
Me to you.
Yeah, to you to me.
So first up, a very obvious selection here is the Stupid Dub from a guy called Phonetix, which is available now on Riddler, and I would stress available via all manner of different channels, Beatport, Juno Download, TrackSource. If you want it, you can get it anywhere. It was one that I had dozens of requests about because if you're familiar with my Jazz Dub FM album, you will recognise it as the background to the Pirate Radio interlude. Lots of people wanted me to do a full track of it, so I did it, and I like it, and I hope you will too.
Large up. My first pick is from the Mudblood EP by Badger. Savage bass, literally kick your face off like you kick the face off a badger. Big up Badger for this. Make sure you check out the Mudblood EP.
Second one I've got on my list is Images by Shunji Fuji, available now via Infinity Sense. It is fucking brilliant, and the only reason I didn't feature it as one of my top 3 was because you were all expecting me to, and I wanted to fuck with you, but that's not to take anything away from it, because it's great. And you need to go enjoy it as soon as you can.
He's taking Mondo Grosso to next levels on that one for sure. My next one, so YUQT's put out a wicked EP. The tune I'm featuring on there is Like That. It's featuring Logan, and it's banging. This was in my top 3. It was so difficult to pick the tunes to talk about this show. Check out that one, man. YUQT is top talent.
I expected that to be in your top 3. I was surprised that it wasn't, but I understand why. Next up, I've got Shy Cookie and MC Neat with a track called Strange Times, which is available now on A1. Shy Cookie is fucking brilliant, and this is a great example of it. Like, I would almost say it couldn't sound more like Sincere if it tried, but I don't want to insult him by suggesting he's ripped anyone off. It's just, when I say that, I mean it's just a fucking brilliant production. Shy Cookie needs more love. Go give it to him.
Big up Shy Cookie, and who knew MC Neat was also a flat earther and an anti-masker. Interesting. My next one, so this guy, I've been clashed on him for forever. Skepsis has put a tune out with K9, and it's featuring an MC called Takura, and it's a tune called Again. Now, it is just breaky, bassy, and it will kick your back door in like the police kicking off a garden gate. Trust me, check it out.
Next one I've got is one that I know we both shortlisted. It's the Illustration and Minister with a track called Bubbling. It's available now on Steppers Club, and it's just a great 2-step bass heavy roller. Just takes me back and makes me want to move.
I thought the Illustration was a DJD alias until I found out the Illustration's Instagram, where I realised he's another guy. Big up the Illustration, and big up DJD for having more aliases than Robbie T, which is a feat.
Not
in
possible.
itself.
Not possible.
Yeah,
I refuse to accept it.
Oh dear. Well, is one of your ones Predator? Because my next pick is Predator. He's Predator is so high caliber. He's bordering on Mersh at the moment. His latest one is featuring a vocalist called Ada, and the track is called Don't Cry. Beautiful, just beautiful 2-step, mate. Grab it.
It's a strong track. Good choice, mate. Next up, I have got Dom Scott with a track called Can You. It's available now on the Biotics Blue album on Point Blank Records. The reason I specify the Biotics Blue album is because there is also a Biotics Green album out at the moment, which is a completely different set of tracks. So if you're looking for this track in particular, I mean, you'll find it on our playlist, but it's a great jazzy, soulful stepper. So of course I would choose it.
Large up everyone at Point Blank. Great
Indeed.
shout. My next one is another tune called Don't Cry. So this is 2 tunes called Don't Cry in a row. This one is featuring Hamza, and it's by Model Man. It is a 2-steppy beat, and it's not really kind of garage, but it is garage. I started my show with Predator Don't Cry and ended my show with Model Man Don't Cry. It's got a piano. It's quite jazzy. Check it out. Love it.
I hope there were no tears during the making of that show. Incidentally, Hamza, didn't he he did a tune with MPH recently, if I'm not mistaken, which was also banging. I think I'm going to double check that. Geezer's obviously on form, but yeah, top marks anyway. Moving on to my next one, I have got You Don't Have to Know, which is the latest release from Baker on his Big Boy Beats imprint. Everyone's going nuts at the moment for Wilfie D and his sort of retro vintage 2-step stylings. If you like that sound, you need to check out You Don't Have to Know by Baker, because it's like somebody took it straight out of 2000, 2001. It would be at home in any number of sets from the old school, old guard DJs. Equally, if you're a new DJ, it might be at home in one of your sets as well, but it's great.
Need to snatch that one, man. Love a bit of Baker. We spoke about him before. Big up Baker. My next one is by a guy called Noxiv, and the track is called Another Kiwi Juice. I hope that's not a stab at Conductor's camp. But this is a bit of a jazzy number. It's hard for me to describe it. It's just a nice instrumental. Check it out.
Next one I've got on my list is a weird one, because the first time I heard it, I hated it. And then every time I heard it again, I liked it a little bit more, and I now love it. Go figure. It's called One, and it's available now on Garage Shared. It's by a Dookie, who is doing big things at the moment. So big up a Dookie.
And big up Garage Shared or the Southampton Massey.
And big up Garage Shared, indeed.
My last one I'm rounding out is by a someone called Mary Choppins, which I just thought was amazing for an artist name. not Mary, but Merry Choppings there, and the tune is called "Oh Hi." That is legitimately the title. I played it on my last radio show, and it is just 4/4 modern bumpiness. Check it out. It's not necessarily garage; it's kind of a genre surfer, but absolutely love it. Big up. That's it. We've done
Top
it.
stuff.
And
if you want to hear all of those tracks, of course, remember, as Brain said earlier, in the ukgarage.com/recommends, which will take you to our Spotify playlist with all of the garage goodness from lately.
Thank you so much for keeping that up, man, because I already spin so many plates. I can't be doing Spotify playlists as well. God damn it.
I feel you, man.
Right. Okay. So we're at 1 hour 10 minutes, mate. So we have been waffling to shit. Let's have a quick spin back in time. Do you want to tell us all about your pick for our visit to the old school and looking at the forgotten years?
I do. My pick this month is a bass heavy number from those early days. I say early days of bassline. Those days when kind of there was a crossover between garage and bassline. And this man in particular was doing great things at the time and put out a EP on Riddler dubs of a lot of this, four different tracks of this kind of thing, this bass heavy 4/4 vibe. This is Charlie Sezz with Oi Oi. See if you can guess who the vocal sample is provided by, and we'll talk about it after.
DJ, 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 It's all about vibes and energy inside a place. If you got a whistle, let me hear you blow. Where's the horns crow? Let me see the hands in the air. DJ, Eminem. Oi, oi!
So I have to say, Rob, the master's sounding quite fresh on that one.
Yes, so for the eagle-eared amongst you may notice the remaster on that. That's because it is... This is a shameless plug. I feel bad for even doing this. So, there is a compilation called Riddle Me This, which is the best of Riddler Volume 1, which is out in a couple of weeks on the 15th of October, exclusive to Beatport and everywhere else widely available after the 29th. And this is taken from that, which is a selection of the best Riddler releases over the years, remastered for the 2021 Mandem. This track was, I want to say, first out in 2006 in my mind via Riddler dubs, when Charlie Sezz was really just kind of smashing it. I feel like it's one of those people from the lost years who, when you actually kind of ask around, even from people who were kind of there at the time, people don't necessarily give him the props that he deserves. When you look at his kind of discography and go, okay, this is a guy that MJ Cole picked up and put out some tracks on prolific dubs, and he then went from there to kind of collaborating with Will Phillips, you know, who we all know later went on to become Tourist, who's kind of done big things. He did some stuff on Riddler dubs. He's kind of dotted about. He did lots of different things, lots of different people. I think the only thing that kind of held back his rep was that he was obviously so intent on ensuring quality control rather than quantity that he didn't put a massive amount out. The actual number of releases to his name are quite small, but the ones that are there all created some noise. And I'm privileged enough that obviously I've known Chaz for a long time, and I've heard a lot of the stuff that didn't go out, and I can tell you now there was some absolute corkers, and it's a crying shame that they didn't go out. There was a two-stepper he did during those Future Garage years that Whistler would have just jizzed all over. It was fucking exceptional. It had some Mortal Kombat samples. I was begging him for ages to finish it. I was like, man, I want to put this out. Let's do something. But obviously, like if you don't know about Charlie Sezz or Chaz, kind of went off and became a go-to guy for the grime lot. He does video production. So a lot of the grime videos you see, a lot of the sort of UK hip hop videos, they're filmed by Chaz. He kind of found a different way to channel his creativity, but he's always one of those guys who just kind of had a vision of what he wanted to achieve and was very good at kind of doing it. He worked as a studio engineer for a number of years before kind of embarking on this little Charlie Sezz kind of project. So he was accomplished before we kind of even were aware of him and had even heard of him. But I love it. I still go back to that Charlie Sezz EP and some of the later releases, Mystico and The Reckoning, that I put out on Riddler in the later years. And as I say, the quality is just there. That he had this knack. If you ever saw Charlie DJ, it extended beyond his production into his DJing as well, where he could just it's what myself and Domino used to refer to as kind of jump up. Certain people have it. Charlie Sezz has it. Dexplicit has it. It's just these tracks that, although they might not be like silky smooth, shiny, polished like MJ Cole, they have a raw element to them and something that just grips you by the throat and goes, get on the fucking dance floor now. And Charlie did it really well. And I feel like Oi Oi is a great example of that. And it was at that moment in time, 2006, when the bassline thing was really kicking off, and you had a lot of the London DJs, like Charmer was all over Charlie Sezz. Down south, Eddie Wideboy was supporting him big time. But then you went up north and Jamie Duggan and Nev Wright and Sean Banger Scott, they were all battering his tunes as well. Kind of feel like he was probably had more at his fingertips than he maybe realised at the time, maybe more than we realised at the time. Like when you ask around amongst the people that were in the know then, that knew of Charlie Sezz, people always just go, oh yeah, Charlie Sezz, he's sick. And I think that's a good example of why. Did you I mentioned the vocal sample before we played it. Are you going to call dibs on who that was? Is it obvious? I don't know if it's like an obvious one.
I know who it is because I know.
See, I heard that tune loads of times before I realised it was Kofi B, and then someone said it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, fucking obviously it was. Yeah. There was a later version of that track. Version of that track which I wanted to put out when we did the Riddler digital relaunch. But unfortunately, Charlie had like a hard drive crash and he'd lost loads of his old project. And the only version of the track, so that was Oi Oi, the original featuring Kofi B. There was a later version of it, which he titled Oi Oi 08, because funnily enough, he made it in 2008, believe it or not, right? But the only version he had available of it was the special that he did for Domino. So it was, again, Kofi B on the vocal, but like it had like little DJ Domino vocals spliced throughout it. So the reason that never went out was because it had DJ Domino all over it. It was just really confusing because people would have thought it was Dom when actually it was nothing to do with Dom, by the fact that it was a special for him. But it was a shame. I always thought it was a shame because it was much the same track, but it just, believe it or not, had like a little bit more energy. It had some more percussion that kind of drove it along a little bit more and some kind of different bass sounds in there. Of the two, I actually favour it. It's just a shame it kind of got lost because, not that original version isn't something to shout about anyway.
No, when you put it on the playlist for today, I thought you said it was Riddler, and I thought, hang on, I swear that's not Riddler. I swear that's on Prolific Dubs, but I was wrong, obviously.
No.
That was
so the Prolific Dubs release you're talking about was Malfunction
and Flatline.
Malfunction and no. Flatline was on the same EP as Oi Oi.
Oh, was it?
The Prolific Dubs release was Prolific Dubs was Malfunction, and I want to say, was it called The Bump or something like that? Double check that for me, because it was Malfunction was quite dirty. It had that kind of speed garage Hoover bass, right? And then it had another one which was kind of more warehouse bumpy filtered square bass.
So what was the one? The one that goes that.
That's Flatline.
Right? That's Flatline.
That's Flatline.
And that's not on Prolific Dubs.
That's Flatline, and that was Riddler Dubs Volume 1, the Charlie Sezz EP. So you had that track we just played, Oi Oi, Flatline. You had Lost. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the fourth track on that EP was, which is really, really bad, poor form on my part. I remember the write-up on that EP in DJ Mag. I remember Philippa Reed giving it a 5 stars and just fucking shouting its praises, and rightly so, because it was a really different take on what everyone else was doing at the time. You had kind of the northern producers that were making all-out speed garage for bassline. Like this was before bassline turned into grime, right? This is before Mr. V and TRC and TS7 and all those kind of jumped on it, and it went all kind of farty bass. This was before that. Like Charlie was kind of ahead of his time. I feel like a lot of the stuff that was coming out was like reflective. It was like those warpers. And Charlie kind of came along and kind of really took it like with a grimier sound. And I think that's why a lot of the northern DJs were just like, this is a guy from down south who's doing like the northern thing, but he's putting his own spin on it. And he did it so well that that's kind of why it caused such a stir at the time.
To Just a Groove, that was the tune.
Just a Groove, yeah.
Just a Groove.
And it was a groove as well. That it was.
So the new Riddler release coming out is called Remind Us Again.
Riddle Me This, and that's the Best of Riddler Volume 1, and there will be also Riddle Me That, the Best of Riddler Volume 2 in coming months as well.
Spoiler alert! Like it. Okay,
Spoiler
is that
alert,
dropping on?
indeed.
Is it exclusively on Beatport, or is it going to be all over the gaff?
So Riddle Me This is exclusive to Beatport for 2 weeks, starting on the 15th of October, and then it will be widely available everywhere else from the 29th of October.
Oh man, what?
And if you need more information on that, riddlerrecords.com for all the updates and links and whatnot. You're going to ask me why it's exclusive to Beatport, right?
I am, but that's only because I don't really shop on Beatport that much. But yeah,
I'm going to be really blunt about it. It's because any platform that you go to and you offer them an exclusive, that platform is going to be more grateful to you for having that exclusive and more likely to feature it. And we'll come to talking about different platforms and distribution models in our gassing
if we
section.
get bloody time, because we are running
if we
long,
bloody
mate.
have time for
We're
it.
running long.
But a big part of that is being featured on certain platforms, and to be honest, like Beatport is the one where you're going to make the vast majority of your sales in 2021. So if I have to stroke them and offer them exclusives to keep them happy, I'm going to do it.
I completely get it, bro. I completely get it. It's too much to my frustration because all of my favourite Spanish tracks seem to come out on Beatport 2 weeks early, and I have to wait. Boo-hoo, first world problems.
You don't have to wait. That's your choice. You could.
I could spend the extra, but I like to support my platforms. I understand. Like, it's weird. You know what?
Admire the
It's
loyalty,
weird with
mate.
Beatport and me. We'll talk about it later. As my beef with Beatport. Okay, let's go into my flashback. Let's get moving because we are running long. So I've chosen a tune that was associated with the very early Russian garage, the Russian garage scene. Way back then, there was a few people that were connected to the Russian scene. And
Greg,
yes,
can I jump in and interrupt you? Was Proton?
he was Polish.
Polish.
Yes, he was completely Polish, and I'm talking out my fucking ass. Yeah. So the early Russian garage scene was completely artifact, and around the same time, the Polish scene was blowing up. What a bell end! And CJ Rain was there as well, coming out straight out of Poland. So because of that, they invented the European Vibes EP. On that European Vibes EP was some tunes by CJ Rain, but then there was also some tunes by these people called the Newbies, which was an alias, and we're gonna roll the lead track from the European Vibes Volume 1 by the Newbies, and this tune is called This Is How We Do It. I love that in that era, like every garage producer had to have their bootleg alias. And Proton's bootleg alias was the new Beez. What a wicked bootleg. It's just bumpy vibes, right? Like, you can't listen to that tune and not smile.
I say over and over again, like that period in time, and Duncan Powell said the same thing, that period in time, because what year is this, 2005, 2006?
Yeah, 2005, yeah, bang on.
It's my favourite time in garage history, and this track, along with all those artifact bits and the stuff by Mr. Bump, it's a prime example of why. It's just such feel-good, bouncy vibes. Like, I can't listen to that. Like, it just makes me smile. Man. It's just great. And like, what a creative use of that sample as well. It's really there's been a million different versions of that track over the years, and that by far and away is like way out there in terms of like taking a vocal and doing something a bit cool with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but why the hell did he switch the drop up to make it awful so that it went out of time? Like, it's like that's the only bit that proper grinded with on that track, is that there was an extra 4 beats randomly that just came up, so that if you didn't drop it before the bit, it would then go out of time with whatever you was mixing.
Just to fuck with you, mate. I used to do it all the time on those Robbie T bits, just to be a dickhead, basically.
That's the sort of shit where the tune would have to be like super duper outstanding, or it'd never get played. But yeah, so I mean, on that EP, so there was This Is How We Do It, and then Toddy Bear and Colours were his kind of they were almost like his debut bits. Them 2 tunes, they were like just four tunes that he'd created that were vibes, and then he put the CJ mix of Lies on there. It was just rounding it out as a nice. It was the first thing I remember from Final Cut that came out. Final Cut Collective, Final Cut Records. It was their first kind of vinyl, right? And yeah, they were the ones that were pushing Proton. And I've spoke before about on this podcast about how there was a very brief period where there was a peer-to-peer sharing thing called Direct Connect, where you could share garage on this shady garage group. And I managed to get Proton's. I got Proton's EP from that, and that was the way that was the first exposure I had to Proton was through Direct Connect, some shady piracy shit. But this was the first thing that came out on Final Cut Records. And Jabs, I was on the same station as him, I've said before, and he was kind of pushing this. And yeah, it was just large. I loved that tune, and I played it over and over and over again, believe me.
Big up Jabs. Do you know what we talked about before? We said before, like, when you look back at that time, it was like Domino knew something that other people didn't know. When you look at the sort of roster that he created, it was like Charmer knew something that other people didn't know with the roster he created. And I don't think Jabs gets enough recognition for the little roster that he created with the Final Cut lot, because actually when you look at those releases you go fucking, because there was releases by there was obviously Proton CJ Ray, and he also had Craig V on there. If I'm not mistaken, he had TNG and Des Jones as well. You know, Des, who later went on to become Huxley. Like Jabs knew something as well. I know obviously he kind of life took him in different directions. He kind of moved away from music for a little while there, but I feel like he deserves some kind of props and recognition for his input to the scene at that time, because those releases were fantastic without fail. As you've said, you know, you had a real good little mix of tracks on there. Do you want to know my interesting little tidbit? Because I know you mentioned to me before we went on air, you said, "Oh, I'm going to have new Beez. This is how we do it." This is going to make you laugh.
Go on.
You know where I live is like super affluent, right? And that's not because I'm loaded by any means. Just for anyone who's wondering, I'm not at all. I live in the basically the most expensive postcode in the country, and I was sitting here the other night. Ooh, la-di-da, makes it sound really cool, doesn't it? I wish I had bragging rights for that to be a really cool thing. In any event, I was sitting in the other night. Funny enough, I was working on some music, but I had my headphones on. I could hear some music in the background. I took my headphones off and I had the window open. One of my neighbours, and I use the phrase neighbours loosely because, to be fair, they're probably like 5 minutes down the road, but just had their music loud enough they sounded like they were next door. One of my neighbours was having a big party, and I'd picked up on the fact they were having a big party in the day because the estate I live on, they kind of mark off like the park in it and use it as a parking like a car park when someone has a party, because that many people kind of turn up. So anyway, I can hear this party going on, and I can hear what sounds like Montel Jordan, "This Is How We Do It," playing. So the weird thing is, I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, it doesn't sound like the record. That sounds like Montel Jordan is in someone's back garden. And it took me a few minutes to realise that obviously one of the rich bastards that lives nearby me, I don't know what they were celebrating, if it's someone's birthday. This is how much money they've obviously got. They'd flown Montel Jordan in to sing "This Is How We Do It" at their party. Yeah, shit, you know. So I'm sitting here. So I stopped what I was doing, took my headphones off, sat here and listened to it. And I was like, fucking hell, like he's pretty good live. I'm impressed with that. And then I can't, for the life of me, I wish I could tell you what the next track was. I can't tell you what the next track was. It wasn't an American act, but it was one of the big British dance acts. I think they'd put some stuff out on Ministry a few years back. It was a female singer. So the record started playing. All of a sudden, I'm like, now that sounds like it's live too. And I don't know if it's like Cicada or what, one of those kind of mainstream dance lot. They'd obviously booked her in to turn up at their house in the party. So I just opened all my windows and sat here. Luckily, the baby slept through it all, and I enjoyed this. Basically, a live gig in my living room.
You sure it weren't like karaoke night?
No, it wasn't karaoke, mate. It was Montel Jordan. So where I am, so I'm conscious of, like, I don't want to sound like a cunt. There's no way of doing it. So basically, I'm living on the Wentworth estate. So like basically, when Ascot's on, right, like people, we have nothing but helicopters all day because the rich folk have too much money to drive to Ascot, so they get a helicopter that flies them in. So that's kind of the level of money you're talking about. And obviously, like the PGA Tour was on the other week, so you can kind of walk over and just watch Justin Rose on taking his drives and stuff. It's pretty hardcore. I'm just basically here as a poor producer trying to earn a quick buck because I happen to know somebody, and I'm kind of house sitting a property until they retire. I wish I had the money to actually live around here, but it has its perks because I get these free gigs apparently. It's not the first time that's happened either. It's the first time I've heard Montel Jordan in the locality, but there've been other sort of party stroke gigs as well. It's pretty cushy, man.
You're just a poor boy. Nobody loves you. I get it.
Pity me.
Right,
pity me.
We're at an hour and a half already, bruv. So,
mate, we can't skip gassing again. We skipped gassing last month.
We did.
Can we do it in a way that's like quick? Can we pick one subject and talk about it rather than both of them? Or are you precious about what you want to talk about?
I'm not precious. Let's talk about the music platforms. Go on, let's do it. We teased it.
So if you follow me on social media, and actually I meant to say at the start of the show when you asked me how things are going, what a ball ache it's been. Basically the past 2-3 weeks of my life have been slave to transferring across my entire back catalogue of music from distributor to distributor. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and that you and I, Greg, have talked about recently, is music distribution platforms, the distributors themselves, and the platforms that music goes onto. And it's a really interesting one. And actually, the last episode of this podcast highlighted the issue for us, and that was why we wanted to talk about it, because I flagged with you the B15 and Lord TCO track, the name of which is escaping me now, which was a bang. Which
one shot, two shot, three shot, four.
One shot, two shot, right? Great track. I flagged it for you, and I recall you saying, fucking, like, I sit here, I go through every new release and I haven't heard that. How did I miss it? And I was like, oh well, I was alerted to it by Spotify's release radar, and we thought that would be an interesting topic for conversation. Since then, and obviously you and I have talked about it a bit, I've been looking to expand the reach of my distribution, because one of the faux pas that I made when I relaunched Riddler back in 2014 was I didn't sign a decent distribution deal. What I should have done was been focusing on who's going to get me onto Beatport, who's going to get those releases onto Beatport, Juno, Traxsource, those big platforms where garage DJs go to specifically download garage, right? I naively, foolishly, whatever label you want to put in it at the time, went, well, we've got Bandcamp, I'll concentrate on Bandcamp. And to be fair, Bandcamp, fucking brilliant platform, really grateful for it, really love it, and we've developed a really good follow for Riddler Records on Bandcamp. However, the downside to that is there are a number of people around who are really into their garage and who routinely go through the new releases on Beatport and Juno, etc., who aren't necessarily aware of the music that goes out on Riddler because of it. And I used the example for you earlier, didn't I, Brains, where we were talking about like Jazz Step FM. A number of people that came across Jazz Step FM contacted me once they heard it through. Actually, a lot of it was through Conductor, because bless him, he playlisted a couple of the tracks on his Kiwi Sound playlist. A lot of people contacted me after that going, fucking hell, like that, I love that track. Like, I don't know why I haven't heard of you sooner. The reason that people hadn't heard of me and hadn't heard of a number of the artists that were working with me is because those distribution channels weren't in place. And there were a number of people, some which we've actually highlighted on our shouts in the previous section where we were talking about tunes that needed more credit, who don't necessarily have the, I don't want to say correct distribution channel in place, but don't have a distribution channel in place that allows them to get their music onto Beatport and Juno. And I don't want to say they're selling themselves short because it sounds like I'm criticising them. But basically, if you aren't on those platforms, you aren't sort of maximising your potential reach to the people who, the demographic who love garage, right? So that was one of the things we kind of wanted to talk about, the fact that some people have those channels in place. And we mentioned Baker earlier, right? Baker is a great example of somebody who does have those channels in place. And actually, although you don't hear Baker cropping up on the lists of the kind of big name DJs like EZ, Matt Jam, you know, those kinds all that often, he's not kind of like a regular mainstay. Nonetheless, Baker has his following, because he has the distribution channel in place that means that his tunes go onto Beatport. And as we briefly discussed there in passing earlier, his tunes go onto Beatport as exclusives. And one of the pluses to that is that Beatport, quite often I've noticed, feature those Big Boy Beats releases, those Baker releases, on their homepage. And as a result of that, he's got like his little niche core fan base of Beatport users who quite often come across Baker releases. And like he obviously sells a few extra records as a result of doing so, right? But there are people conversely who don't have that kind of level of distribution in place, who are maybe on a similar sort of a similar level in terms of production and the tunes they're making. And I don't want to name any names because I don't want it to sound like I'm slagging anyone off, because I'm really not. But there are producers around who are making brilliant music that doesn't get the credit it deserves, it doesn't get the exposure it deserves, because they don't have the distribution channel in place. So their tunes maybe go onto Spotify and get put onto people's release radars. People pick them up via Apple Music or Amazon. But let's be honest, a lot of garage DJs are probably going on Beatport or Juno to get their releases. So they're going to miss those tunes by those producers because they're not looking on Apple Music, they're not looking on Amazon for one reason or another, be that because it's an inconvenient platform, be that because of the file types, because of the bit rates. That's a whole different discussion. Do you know what I mean? But it's just fascinating that you, the most conscientious and dedicated hardcore garage fan that I know of anyone, who has the time and patience to go through every single fucking release, because I love garage and I'll admit I don't have the patience to do it. I like my friend BWK Project. I've talked about this with him. We've both kind of acknowledged that actually we're lazy in the sense that we're strongly reliant on the Spotify release radar. So what my mechanism for tracking down new releases, I do go on Beatport, I do go on Juno, I do browse through the releases, but I can't lie and say I painstakingly sit there and listen to them all like you do. I am largely reliant on what Spotify's release radar suggests for me based on artists I follow and previous tracks that I've liked. So there will be tracks that are readily available that I could come across, but which I miss because I am going, right, spoon feed me via an algorithm. And now I know you don't like that and you don't trust that, because I know you and I have had this conversation before, right? And you've gone, I don't trust it. Rightly so. That's why you go and you dedicate your Friday afternoon when you should be working and earning your living, and you mug your boss off and you go on Beatport and Juno.
Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that.
Instead, I'm gonna send an email to your company. You go on Juno and Beatport instead, and you sit there and you painstakingly go through all the releases, even though arguably a lot of them don't belong in the garage section, but that's a whole different conversation. Let's not go there. You go through them all and you find the ones that you like, right? So it's fascinating to me that last month I was able to flag something for you that you went, I haven't heard this, because I was like, what the fuck? Like, how have you missed that? And then it dawned on me afterwards that obviously I don't know what B15's distribution channel is. Sorry to pinpoint you there, Angus. Like it's obviously a prime example because of what we discussed. I don't know what their distribution channel is. Whether that track went onto Beatport or Juno, I don't know off the top of my head. Obviously, it was missed by you. It was only flagged by me because Spotify popped it up on a Friday and went, "Hey Rob, you'll like this," and I went, "Thank you very much." Yes, I do. It's just interesting that can be the way, and that, you know, I mentioned also last time when we were discussing it, there was another track that we talked about, and it was an MPH track that was, I think, Wub Club. I think it was a Wub Club track. It might have been a Wub Club track, but it hadn't gone on to Beatport or Juno because there was some sample issues in it. But it had gone on to Spotify. I think you were aware of this one, but I was just flagging it because it was equally one that I acknowledged could be missed by someone if they were solely reliant on picking one platform and sticking with it, because you could only download it via the Wub Club SoundCloud, obviously because of copyright issues. I understand that, so that's not a criticism of anyone. It's just fascinating that in 2021 we have this internet at our disposal. We have a tool that's greater than any for marketing and getting stuff into people's hands directly from your house, your studio to yours. Do you know what I mean? And yet, in spite of that, because there's no standard, because there are differences in the way people do things, because there are differences in the way distributors work, because there are differences in platforms and the way platforms take music. Platforms like Beatport is curated, for instance. So there may be releases that are on Juno that don't make it onto Beatport because someone at Beatport deems that they're not valid to be on Beatport. Do you know what I mean? There's all these little intricate nooks and crannies that mean that although we're in an age where everything should be really accessible and easily acquired and consumed, arguably it's not, and things do get missed. And I'm waffling away. And
no, it's really difficult, right? It's really difficult because it's like you said, the accessibility is there, so any person can create a song on a Monday and have it distributed to shops on a Tuesday. It's like we're in a modern age now where so many people have access to the music. There's so much talent out there, and you can self-distribute within the blink of an eye. And we've definitely spoken about many tunes on this show that have been distributed via labels that are owned by the person that has made the tune because they've just self-distributed. You know, I like you said, I do go through religiously everything in the garage section in Juno. I go through. There's problems with that. The first problem is there's so much stuff that it limits the amount of time I can listen to every tune. Sometimes it could be as little as 1 second and I skip on to the next one. I'm also reliant on the fact that Juno has categorized the song correctly as garage. So if a remix may be missed, if it's on a general release that is garage, it hasn't gone into the garage section. The reason I'm turned off the Beatport, I think, is a proper legacy thing, because way back, they were like built in pure Flash, if you know what that is, which obviously has completely been killed off now on the web. But the fact that it was a Flash website, and the fact that they didn't have a garage section, which I think was the biggest thing. So there was no garage as a genre on Beatport. It turned me off to it. I didn't have any interest in it. And Juno had a UK garage / UK funky section, which came about when funky was the thing. And that meant that I could look for specifically garage tunes. I couldn't, like, I know that Beatport now has, like, they feature garage as a genre, but originally they didn't. And I like the legacy is kind of there, so it's kept me on Juno.
You've borne a grudge, haven't you?
Well, it's it. I mean, I don't want to call it a grudge. It's just I've got a workflow that works for me now, right? You know, it's like
I get it. I'm winding you up, man.
No, of course. I'm, you know, that's my casual pseudo autism that I have. I want to be able to love Beatport, but it's the main thing I find about Beatport is if artists that I follow on Spotify, not on Spotify, on SoundCloud, they'll exclusively release tunes on Beatport, like you've mentioned. So like they'll do 2 weeks on Beatport. It'll cost more than it would on other music platforms. And generally, because I prefer to buy from Juno, I'll wait until it comes out on Juno. This is horrible of me, but if a tune comes out on Beatport that's exclusive, I will put it into you can choose. You can have like custom baskets on Beatport. I don't know if you've done that before. Yeah. So I've got a custom basket called Hold Bin, and I put in the Hold Bin things that I can't get on Juno yet, and then literally I'll revisit my Hold Bin and I'll be like, oh, that's now available elsewhere. I'll go get it elsewhere. it's terrible that I'm not supporting the artists in that way. But
I get it because you don't in essence your show is like the pinnacle of for me. Like if I want to hear bang up to date new garage, I look into BrainZ because I know that you're doing the legwork to go through and get the bang up to date stuff. So if somebody is going right, they're pushing music to a platform where you can't get it until it's been out for 2 weeks, you're then not going to be bang up to date. You're 2 weeks behind. So I can understand why those tunes might fall down your priority list if that's your kind of USP, which I feel like it is for you as a DJ. You like those kind of wonky out there, brand new upfront tunes, right? I think that's fair to say. I can tell you, I mean, I can only say it from my personal perspective, but what I would assume probably resonates with a lot of artists is that the reason they want to probably keep Beatport sweet, aside from the fact that it's arguably a good platform, whether you want to admit it or not these days, is the fact that I would, as a rough ballpark percentage figure, excluding Bandcamp, obviously, say that via a distributor, probably about 90% of your sales are going to come via Beatport. I feel like, and that's not a diss to Juno. Juno's a great platform. I use Juno too. I use both of them actually in conjunction with one another. But I think Beatport probably has, to be fair, the bigger brand worldwide. And I think a lot of the overseas demographics, I'm talking about people outside the UK, and especially in the States, from what I gather from my following and the people that I interact with, a lot of those people shop not necessarily exclusively on Beatport, but Beatport is their first port of call. So if you were to get the statements of a number of UK-based labels, and I have kind of done this in a roundabout way, and I'm not going to name label names because obviously they've trusted me with sharing statements just based on questions that I've asked. But the general consensus amongst the UK labels is that you're making most of your money through Beatport. So it totally makes sense to me that a lot of people will go, right, well, I'm going to kind of give Beatport the exclusive.
No, but I think that's been the case for years, mate. Like as far back as I remember back in like 2008, right? So I'm hanging out with Pete Devereaux, and Beatport is pure Flash based, and he's telling me about how much he needs to get onto Beatport. And I don't understand why. It's like, to me, it's a shitty Flash-based website that doesn't highlight garage, but that has it's got the most customers. It's got the most sway, and you also, like you've said, it's curated. Like you need to prove yourself as high enough caliber to go on that website. I don't understand how they keep that up nowadays with the sheer volume that they've got, but they do somehow, and it's still the bastion of kind of quality. So. I completely get it. And it's like, my workflow has gone a certain way that I haven't included Beatport in it. But if you're an artist, that's going to be the first kind of place that you're going to want to go. But then it brings up the secondary question of understanding what your distribution channels are, like you've said. There's plenty of tunes that I've missed because they've only been available on iTunes. Or similarly, I'll follow an artist on SoundCloud, and I can only buy their tune on iTunes and nowhere else because that's the one place they've decided to distribute. So I think more than anything, this is a PSA, a public service announcement to say you should be kind of using a distributor that goes everywhere, because nowadays, technically, it's so simple, right? You can literally upload once, distribute many. And that's what it's all about, right?
I would take the opportunity to apologise to anyone that likes my music, and also to apologise to anyone that's kind of signed music to Riddler over the years that I didn't kind of jump on this sooner, because, as I say, I had distributors knocking on my door in 2014 when I had kind of that roster and all of those tunes lined up, and they were going, yeah, we'll put you out. And I kind of naively, just through lack of education, went, nah, do you know what? I think I can do this with Bandcamp and with a kind of lesser distributor, and went down those channels of going, right, Bandcamp's my focus. It'll go on to iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon, and all those platforms as a secondary. But absolutely, you are 100% on the money there, that actually in doing that, what I did was sell myself short and sell the artist that I was working with short, because actually what I ended up with was Riddler kind of stagnating, where we had our fan base on Bandcamp. And bless them, there's a die-hard core of fans that buy everything I put out on Riddler religiously the day it comes out, and I love them, and they're a big inspiration, a big reason I've kept making music over the years. But as an artist, And it's not about the money. It's not about the money at all. I don't want it to come across that way. As an artist, what you want is as big a fan base as possible. And I was talking literally last night with ODM about this. We were talking about the fact that as an artist, you want as many people listening to your music as you as possible, for it to feel worthwhile for you to keep going, pouring your heart and soul into those productions, right? And if you're not getting that, if you feel like you're making music that's going to a really small niche fan base, then it's really soul destroying. Especially, like, I'm not saying it's not about the money, but when you do see the numbers and you go, oh, fucking hell, that made like £3, that's a real kick in the gut. So as an artist, yeah, absolutely, as you say, a public service announcement, that's kind of why I wanted to sort of raise it as a topic for discussion. That's why I've been posting the messages that I have been on social media in recent days, and I've had a few conversations with a few different people and artists who will go, oh yeah, I've talked to him about this, and I've been saying to them, forget about these smaller distributors who may be very efficient in what they do, who may charge you a lesser amount or be really convenient for you. And I don't want to name names of distributors, but there are some that are great for what they do. They're automated services. You don't have to go through moderation. You upload something, it's on all of these platforms the next day. If they're not going onto Beatport, Juno Download, arguably to a lesser extent Traxsource, if they're not going onto those platforms that DJs use where they can discover music and buy it and then download it directly, you are selling yourself short as an artist. I feel, this is my opinion, I feel like you share it with me because you've just basically said kind of the same thing in essence. I feel like basically I've robbed myself of a much bigger fan base over the years because I've spent many years distributing tunes to the lesser platforms, and I don't want to insult Apple Music or Amazon or anything like that, but because they are platforms and they do serve a purpose, but they aren't necessarily the platforms that people like you, who are passionate about garage, who are my audience, would necessarily go on to buy the tunes. Do you know what I mean? And it's basic marketing, right? But it's easily overlooked. You've got to cater for the audience that you want to consume your goods. And if you're not with the correct distributor who can get you onto the right platforms like Beatport and like Juno Download, then I don't want to say you might as well not bother, but you're selling yourself massively short. And I used the example to you earlier, BrainZ, didn't I, where I was saying about, like, I've been in the game, what are we now, 2021? I've been releasing records since like 2004 now. And if you know, you know, and there are people who know about me. And actually, it was interesting because I did obviously the 2002 EP with Downplay recently. And Andy, bless him, big up boss, sent me through the feedback sheets from the promos that he'd sent out and was just like, there's some comments on here I thought you'd like to see from DJs who've obviously downloaded the promo and provided feedback. And across the board, a large chunk of what was said on those forums was, this is brilliant, Phonetix is great, I don't understand why he isn't bigger than he is. And I'm not sharing that to kind of toot my own horn. I took from that what I needed to take from that, and bless up everybody that bigged me up, because it really meant so much more to me than I can even verbalize. The reason I highlight it in the context of this discussion is because it really flagged for me the need, you know, the fact that actually the people that know were going, oh yeah, you're making some really good music, I don't understand why you're not bigger than you are. And I went, why am I not bigger than I am? The reason I'm not bigger than I am, and obviously there are multiple facets to that for any artist, you know what I mean? But marketing, like we've discussed before, forms a big part of it. And a big part of marketing is ensuring that your product is in the right place. And my product has not been in the right place for many years. So that's something that I've basically, it's been my full-time occupation for the past 2 or 3 weeks to port across my entire back catalogue so that my product is on the right platform. So now if you go onto Beatport and Juno Download and Traxsource, you can download all of the Phonetix discography. You know, I lose track of the amount of times over the years where I've uploaded new material and I've had messages on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter from people going, oh, I love this tune, but it's not really available on any of the platforms I use. And I'm like, hey, go to Bandcamp. And people are like, I don't use Bandcamp, I use Juno Download, or I use Beatport. Do you know what I mean? So,
long and the short of it is, get out as many places as possible, right?
Absolutely. Hit the button, get it to everywhere, and thank us later.
That's it. I mean, you mentioned marketing. It does, as an artist, you can put tunes out there, but you need to drive your listeners to the places that you put them. And I think you have to have an extremely kind of like tier 1 brand to be like, right, it's in this one place, and if you love me that much, you've got to go there. Like, you know, you've got to be legendary to be.
You've got to be MJ Cole to do that, haven't you? Really?
Yeah, completely. And I think, you know, you can be at peace to say, okay, I'm not quite there yet. If I get there one day, I can do that. But until then, I need to be everywhere. All right, cool. Look, we're running up on nearly 2 hours long, bruv. So I think we're gonna have to, you know, reel it in, as they say. It's been great chatting to you, bruv. It's like,
as always, mate.
I you know, I love talking about kind of these distribution channels because I have to consume music regularly as a DJ, and put together the shitty 2 hours of clanging that I do on Sub FM. And it, you know, I really do want to be more into Beatport. But it was great to chat about that. Great to hear about. It's unfortunate that there's a whole backup list that these guys have not seen that you've sent me. That I need to frivolously go through all of the stuff that you've sent me for New Music Discovery, because there's some bits that I've missed that I think you've noticed over the past month or so. But I appreciate
everyone around making new music, because there's so much good stuff, isn't there? As we've pinpointed at the top of the podcast.
Who have we missed? Who are the people that we should be talking about? What are the tunes that we need to know? Email us. We have a channel wide open. We want to hear about everything. Have we been talking utter shit? Are there things that you agree with? Are there things that you'd like us to talk about? Are there tunes that we need to know about? Please email us feedback at intheukgarage.com, and Rob and I
do it to the email, as BrainZ has just outlined there, because regularly when we do these podcasts and upload them, I get DMs into Insta, and I'm just terrible at keeping tabs on it. And every time you open up the discussion on the feedback section, you go, feedback. I think, oh shit, such and such messaged me, but I can't remember what they've messaged me. And I love the interaction. I love chatting with you guys, and by all means keep it coming. But actually, I think the feedback at intheukgarage.com email address is vital for if you've got a thought specifically on what we've been discussing, because we kind of put those to one side, don't we, to discuss on the podcast. I think that's really a useful, easy way of us keeping tabs on it.
Or we're just granddads that are using legacy kind of communication systems. You can also call us on the landline of 0181.
Fax is on this number. Facsimile.
If you could just telex us on this number, or a Morse code kind of telegram would be lovely. We will happily read it out on this beautiful podcast. Rob, bruv, it's been amazing talking to you, and I love catching up with you, mate. Thanks for
it's always a pleasure. We should really do it more often. Yeah,
you know, we live so far away, and the internet is a beautiful thing. It allows us to.
I'm going to badger you one day into us both getting into one place to record this podcast.
We will do it once we have a location that is fitting.
Yes,
that's the challenge. Until,
do you know what? I need to find a place where the studio is in the green screen behind me, don't I? If I could find a place that had that. Do you know what, annoyingly, there's based on what I said earlier, there's a million houses around here that do have these facilities. Jamiroquai used to live around the corner, and Elton John lives across the way. I just need, I don't know, has anyone got 15 mil they can lend me, and then we can make this shit happen?
I thought you was going to say a crowbar to break in and just take over. Well, watch this space. We never know what will happen until the next episode. Feedback at intheukgarage.com. Intheukgarage.com to see the episodes, find all the places to subscribe, go to the clouds, go to the podcasty places. We are around. Rob, thank you so much, mate. I will see you on the next one, right?
Absolutely, mate. I look forward to it. Always a pleasure.
All the best. All right. Until the next episode, guys. Thank you so much. Take it easy.
Layers.
You know what? I hate this at the end of the episode when the volume's all the way turned down on my jingle machine. And you know what? Laters until next time. Big guitar.
In the garage with Phonetix and BrainZ.